Everyone, we are back with another war video today, and this is going to be the final installment in our key attackers videos. Again, for this video, we have three tiers. Tier 1 is going to be the critical attackers. These are the attackers assigned majority of wars. Sometimes you're assigning multiple per war, and ideally you want to have 3 to 4 people with this champ in your battle group. Tier 2 is the important attackers. These champs are assigned multiple times per season. Optimal option for many fights across the map, and then ideally you want to have 2 to 3 of these per battle group. And then the final tier is the nice to have. Rarely assigned each season, these champs are. They're 1 per battle group is sufficient, and then unique circumstances leads to their assignment. This is, again, going to be tactic agnostic. So this is looking at the map as a whole with these attackers. It is not taking into account current tactic, previous tactic, or any future tactics. We should be able to get going though now, so we'll jump into it. We're going to do the Mystic class, the final class of the video. And we'll start with Tier 1, as we have been doing the past several videos. And the first champ is going to be Kushala. Kushala has 2 immunities. She's Bleed and Incinerate immune. There's one specific node that calls for Bleed and Incinerate immune, so that's a nice addition for her. She's able to block unblockable attacks once she has her blue portal spell up. I don't know what they call it. Blessing up, I'm sorry. So when she parries attacks, she gets her blue blessing. As long as she has the blue spell up or blessing up, she is able to block unblockable attacks and regenerate damage from those hits. 25% of the damage taken from hits. So this is super nice utility. It's not just special attacks, it's all attacks she can block, and it's not specific defenders. It's all classes as well. So it's a really unique and beneficial piece of utility. She also has really solid damage. She has Soul Barb on her special 2, Incinerate on her special 1s. So you can kind of do a cycle of going to a special 2. Then you could stack a bunch of her buffs she gives the defender and then nullify all those to turn them into Incinerates. So she has a couple of ways of playing around to get big damage going, and then she does have a degeneration on her special 3 as well. She is assigned a lot though. I think she's going to be really good with this tactic. Again, this video is not tactic specific, but she's going to be probably the best tactic attacker. I expect she'll be banned, unfortunately. But she's a really strong attacker and will continue to be so. Her damage debuffs can also be passive the higher the sig she has as well. There's a good chance they'll be passive damage, which is nice. Moving along, we're going to go to America Chavez next. She is probably the most assigned Mystic attacker, in my opinion. And she's very strong because she can reverse power gain. That is her main thing she does, and it is super potent. So you do a couple heavy attacks, and you get the purple dimensions up. I think it's the purple dimension. And that one basically, the negative zone, and that reduces opponent's ability power rate. So this works on nodes like Rich Get Richer. She'll reverse the power gain there. She reverses the power gain from champions like Serpent or someone like that. So she's really strong for all those reasons. She's able to heal with the special. The orange spell she does gives more damage. The blue one allows her to heal some damage. So usually you throw a couple special ones and then you throw a big special too. Her damage scales with how many buffs the defender has. So if the defender, she doesn't remove or nullify buffs, but her damage increases when the defender has more buffs as well. She's also able to get an easy knockdown because she can combo into a heavy attack. And then she has, like I said, big special damage on the special 2, and it can also be an unblockable special 2. But she's used all over the map. I don't see that changing. So we'll continue to see Chavez all over the place. Next up, we're going to do Werewolf by Night. I would say this is maybe a projection of where he will be. He was not assigned super frequently, I would say, the past several seasons. But with the changes to the map, I do think he is going to increase in value. He is able to do a lot of damage by just hitting their block and applying ruptures, which is super beneficial. He also has passive power gain, which allows him to, he holds back and idles for a bit, and then you can gain power every few seconds. I think it's like 8 seconds or 10 seconds, and then it goes on cooldown. He is immune to heal block. He's also 90% poison duration. He reduces poisons by 90% the duration. The rupture damage, as I talked about, is really potent and strong. He can throw unblockable special attacks. And yeah, all this comes together to make him really strong attacker. Because he can play around nodes and kind of just passively power gain without having to hit the defender too much, especially you can just hit in their block, it'll allow him to take a bunch of different nodes on the map. So I think he's going to be seen more and more on attack. And then our final champion in tier 1 is going to be Sim Supreme, who is almost exclusively here because he is the best Serpent counter. And that is going to remain the case for the foreseeable future, at least. He has he can stack a bunch of staggers on the defender to help steal their buffs. He can tank special 3s when he has his dimensions up, or not dimensions up. His are blessings too, I guess. So he gets genetic potential, and then he can get these 3 spells up. Let me see if they're here, or blessings. I'm sorry. 3 different genetic blessings. So once he throws a special 3, it automatically turns all of them on. The protection one, which looks like an armor up kind of thing, that one allows him to tank special 3s, which is super beneficial, really nice to have. He basically will take like 10% damage, baby, so he's able to eat a bunch of those. He has a very potent power steal on his special 2, so his loop is you get to a special 3 with 100 genetic code, then you'll start spamming special 2s, and then you kind of just get this loop where it's special 2, then you're back at a special 3, throw it, then it's special 2, same thing over and over again. He is a very strong attacker versus Serpent, the best on most of the nodes on the map. He also is very strong against some of the other cosmic attack defenders, like Gore he's really good against. So there's a couple other he's really strong for. He's good against Maestro a lot of the time as well. But he is a little challenging to plan around, and usually you want to bring Mordo to give him the extra power at the beginning just to make the Serpent fight as safe as possible. But regardless, he is assigned to most of the wars. I assign him almost every single war, probably like 10 out of 12 wars, 9 out of 12 at least. You don't need a bunch, so unlike the rest of the tier 1, you want to have 3 to 4 per BG. I would say you have 2 people that are good with Sim Supreme, you're good. You don't need a lot. They'll just be on Sim Supreme duty every war, which is fine and not fine. I've had that be my job for a couple seasons. But yeah, he's a great attacker. That rounds out tier 1. We will jump to tier 2. And tier 2 is pretty small for this class. But I think that just tends to be the case. The Mystic class is more of a defensive class, I would say, for the most part. But there are some great Mystic attackers, don't get me wrong. We'll go over Longshot first. He has 300% base ability accuracy, so it makes him really good for several fights. He can't have his ability accuracy reduced very easily, which is very beneficial. And he can only have his ability accuracy actually modified by debuffs. So like neuroshocks, or not neuroshocks, neuropoisons from like Archangel would reduce his ability accuracy. His special 2 though has a big Fate Seal on it, which is his big thing, and then that every time the defender has a buff or you're applying bad karma, it does incinerate damage. For the special 2 to do big damage, it does have to apply an incinerate debuff. The damaging incinerates though are passives. But basically Longshot's really good because he can destroy health pools where there's a lot of buffs if they aren't immune to Fate Seal. So he's really good against Gore, Hulkling, several other cosmic defenders. So he's a really good champ, and I think he'll continue to be used quite frequently. Jumping over to one of the newer champs, we have Shothra here. Shothra is pretty good for several different reasons. She has Power Steal, which is nice on her heavy charge. She also has a unique damage source, which no one is immune to. Her little eggs things she does is super good, which is really strong damage. She has Nullify on her light ending combos. She has the Atrophy on her special 1, which reduces the buff duration. So similar to what we saw for, actually, I know we haven't talked about that attacker yet. So she's able to reduce buff duration though with her atrophy on a special 1. So usually her loop looks like a special 1 into a special 2, which does the little egg damage. She's also unblockable special 2 if you charge heavy into it, and then all of her debuffs are little passive debuffs. And same with her, even atrophy is a passive debuff, so you don't really have to worry about any conflict or anything with her. And because of that, she's pretty unique. She's also a great serpent counter on some nodes, so we'll see how often she continues to be assigned. She's really good against Maestro as well, so some of the tricky defenders she's a great option for. And then our next one is going to be one of another newer release 7-star, which I don't have yet. And it's going to be Rintrah. So Rintrah, older champ, but he's very strong. He has a neutralize, which is very easy to keep up. It's 100% on Cosmics, which is really good. It's a 200% neutralize for Cosmics as well, which is also very beneficial. He's able to keep it up very easily just by comboing them most of the time. He has a root mechanic, which roots them in the corner. Once he roots them, he applies a bunch of ruptures, which is very good. Very good damage over time. Or decent damage over time. His ruptures are okay. And then he has a very big special too when he has his, not portals. And these guys have got too many different abilities. Mystical charges. When he has high mystical charges and a bunch of ruptures on the defender, his special 2 damage is really big, like massive. And with the stat focus, being able to give him crit, that really helps a lot. But yeah, as you can see, all removes mystical charges, and then he gets increased attack for each personal rupture on the opponent. So it can be very big damage. The other part is Rintrah is very tanky. He has a big health pool, so it makes him very sustainable and easy to use in war. So you're very unlikely to die with him because of that as well. And next, we are going to go to our first 6-star, and it is, I'm going to be clear, it's going to be Avsman. I would say Avsman's value is still very high. He is armor break immune, which is really nice to have. He reduces indestructible, immortality, unstoppable, and unblockable buffs by 90%, which is really potent, especially with the new Footloose. Node 47 has unstoppable, so he'll be able to reduce the duration of those unstoppable buffs really well. And those pause, when they do expire, they pause his form. Now his forms, this is the main reason he's up this high, is he has a lot of immunities. He's bleed and shock immune when he's in his Uru form. He is incinerate, cold snap, and frostbite immune when he's in his magma form. And then if he has his synergy partner, which I think it's I-Bomb. Yeah, if he has I-Bomb, he's also immune to poison. So he has a bunch of immunities he can have, which makes him very good for Path 9. Now, he is punching up a lot as a 6-star, obviously, so that does hurt him a bit. But if he gets released as a 7-star, I could see him very much climbing back into Tier 1. The other thing is when he has his magma form, he has really high energy resistance, so he can kind of deal with a bunch of energy debuffs. Yeah, 9,000 energy resistance. I imagine if he gets a 7-star, it'll even be higher. So that can help him a lot. I tried looking into his physical resistance to see if he could work well versus rupture nodes. It didn't go great, so I don't know if I don't think I'm going to try and send that again. But regardless, he has really good damage. He has a heal also. When he applies his armor break, or her armor, what does he do? When he does his medium, light, medium. Yeah, he applies an armor break or armor shatter. Oh, no. Vulnerability passive. I'm sorry. When he applies a vulnerability passive, it really increases his damage a lot. So, yeah, Avsman's great, and I really hope we see the 7-star soon. And then the final one I'm putting on here, and this one is projection again. I could definitely see this champ going more to Tier 3, is Diablo. I think Diablo is going to be really good because he has the damage over time with all of his poisons. I think that's going to make him really good for all these safeguard nodes. He could probably do node 49 and 48 without too much issue. He's also poison immune in the sense that he doesn't take any damage from poison, and having a poison debuff on him increases his damage. He also has the burst damage on his special too. His nullify from one of his pre-fight selects. Anytime he throws a special, then he gets the nullify aura thing going on. So yeah, Diablo's really strong. Again, he might be closer to tier 3 than tier 2, but I think we'll see how he does with all the safeguard nodes and stuff like that. Now we're going to move to tier 3, and there's a lot in tier 3 for this class. And we're going to start with Spiral, who I don't have. Spiral is Falter immune, which is really nice. She has Shock, Incinerate, and Poison resistance based on her Fervor. So the higher that is, the more resistant she is to those debuffs. And so she's pretty effective with that. She can steal power if they're gaining power. She destroys buffs: Fury, Unblockable, Indestructible, Precision, Death, Immunity, and Immortality. So she is a Serpent counter, and a really strong one for that as well. She also has dot damage over time from her ruptures. She applies a bunch of ruptures. And she can't be struck by attack while dodging. So another thing that's good for Serpent, where she can dodge his special too. So she's pretty good. On some of the hazard shift nodes, she'll be really good. She's a great option for Serpent in some places. You just don't see him always placed there that often. But again, she is really good. She could move up depending on how frequently she gets used for hazard shift stuff. Next, we're going to go to White Tiger. White Tiger is Nullify immune, so she's the only Mystic that's Nullify immune, which makes her really good for node 28. The Power Snack nodes she's really good for. I think there's 2 usually. She has a Fear passive, which allows her to prevent unblockable attacks. That's just at the start of the fight. She purifies damaging debuffs, and she has an increased chance for each buff the defender has. So this is really good for defenders like Gore. She's really good for that. She can nullify power gains and energize on her combo enders. So if she does a full combo, she can nullify power gain or energize. She has power steal. And then, so her first special is like free, where it doesn't cost any power, and then the second one does cost power. You can do unblockable attacks as well. Her bleed on her special 2 stops healing. That just completely stops it. And then the bleed, the healing that would be done while she has the bleed on the defender, the healing goes to her instead. So she's pretty sustainable from that as well. She's a really fun champ to play, but you don't see her assigned too often. But maybe you'll see a different change with the map update. Although I don't think she really counters any specific nodes too much. Next champ is going to be Wiccan. Wiccan was the first one with Neutralize, and now or one of the first champs with Neutralize, and now there's just a bunch of other champs that kind of had Neutralize, and then now a bunch of the defenders are immune to Neutralize. So that's kind of why you don't see Wiccan as often. He is immune to Armor Break and Reverse Controls, so he'll be good for Path 4. He can block unblockable attacks from Cosmic Defenders when he has his spell up. I think it's Resistant up. Let's see. Yeah, Resistance up allows him to block unblockable attacks from Cosmics, though. Yeah, Resistance up allows him to block unblockable attacks from Cosmic champions. Yes, so that's all attacks, not just specials, which is really nice. He has Neutralize, which I already mentioned. It's pretty easy to keep up his Neutralize, not too challenging. And then he has a ton of damage over time, so he could be really good for the safeguard nodes that are now stuck all over the place. Moving to our next champ, and I think this champion we'll see placed more or used more just because of the changes to the map, is going to be Sorcerer Supreme. She has a passive power gain, which is really nice. She has easy to access slow and armor break, and then she has regen on her block when, again, from her spells. Or maybe they're blessings. Man, they have too many different things here. And then she has a nullify aura from her special 1. So she's going to be really strong for both node 39 or for node 39, and she should be pretty good for node 47 as well. But yeah, I think because of that, she's going to be really potent. The Mixmaster node she'll also be good for because she can very easily keep up the slow. So those kind of things will make her, so node 40 as well. So she'll make her a unique option. Her passive power gain also makes her really good for the strike counter stuff, since you don't really have to worry about it, since you're naturally gaining power anyway during the fight. Moving to our next champ, and this one, I think he's really only up here because of latest videos from Andy, but it's going to be Mojo. Again, I do think the map does cater to him as well now. But one of the big things is when he has his anti-life field going, he reduces buff durations by 90%, which is really strong. That helps him on several of the new nodes. Node 39, again, Footloose, stun immunity. Footloose has the evade and unstoppable. He can reduce both order directions. It has a stun immune buff. He can reduce those durations. So being able to do that makes him really good there. He's also has degen passive damage, which will make him very good for the safeguard nodes. He has power gain, which is also really nice. And then he has nullify on his special one, and then he has passive healing when he completes his prompts as well. He has a very unique playstyle in terms of having to complete prompts, gets you followers, which ramps you up, keeps the anti-life field going. So all of that is really a unique way to play him, and it makes him very useful and strong for a lot of different matchups. He's also very good serpent counter as well. I could see Mojo moving up depending on how dominant he is for some of those new nodes. But not many people have him ranked at this time, at least in my battle group. Moving along, our next champ is another one I don't have, and it's going to be Hood. I hate his bullet mechanic. Really, I just hate that it doesn't just carry over, or you don't just restart at the beginning of each fight. It wouldn't make him overpowered if that was the case. So I don't know why they don't do that. So he's kind of dangerous to use if you get low on bullets. But he has a very easy access stagger, and it's a passive stagger, which is really nice. He has the Fate Seal on his special 2. He turns invisible after his special 2, which makes for easy openings and easy intercepts. And then he has unique damage where you heavy and burst all your hexes, and that does a bunch of damage. He gets around Safeguard doing that. So he's pretty unique champion. I really like him. He's super fun to play in my opinion. So we'll see how much he gets used going forward with the new map. But he could be really good for a lot of those new nodes. Next up is Purgatory. Purgatory probably could be an honorable mention instead. But she's Incinerate immune, which is nice. She has a Neutralize, although you kind of have to ramp it up to get a bunch of them going. She has Degeneration damage and Incinerate damage, which most people aren't immune to. And then she has the Souls Ramper. So if you can get her some fights before, there's a lot of different ways to help her out. Cosmic Soul gives her nice access to Nullify. She can inflict an armor break very easily with the Tech Soul, and then the Mutant Soul. You can power steal their power. And then she gets a passive slow for killing a skill champ. So getting some of the souls can really help her, but she's not my favorite champ to use. I would be very surprised if we assigned her. But she does have some fans, and her new buff it definitely makes her a lot better. All right. And our last 7-star in tier 3 is going to be Isophene. She is very simple to play, but she does have some nice immunities. She's immune to Bleed, Cold Snap, and Frostbite. So that's a good set of immunities. Bleed and Cold Snap is node 45. So she can do fights there pretty easily. She can nullify buffs with light attacks as 35% to nullify buffs. And then I think her specials automatically nullify buffs as well. And then she has Oh, 1 second. Sorry about that. And so she's very good at nullifying, or she has the ability to nullify, as I mentioned. And then the other part about her is she is a good serpent counter, where she has the marked passive, 125% ability accuracy, which means she can stop his death immunity. So that is one of her big selling points as well. Again, she's not the most used serpent counter, but she can be very strong against him. So that ends the 7 stars in tier 3. We have 2 6 stars in here, and they are Tigra and Doom. Now, Tigra, I think everyone is very aware of Tigra at this point. She has a very potent neutralize, which she can very easily keep up for the most part. She has massive damage on her special 2 when she applies a bunch of ruptures. And then she can miss non-contact special attacks. So she can kind of charge heavy and then it kind of phases through her. And then she has unblockable special 2. She's really good, very nuke champ. With her being 6-star locked, she's a bit scary to use at this point. I would have said she was very much in tier 2 before, how much farther ahead 7 stars are now. So I think a 7-star Lucifer will really help her out and get her back into being a higher tier champion. And then the final 6-star or finals champion in tier 3 is Doom. I think everyone knows about Doom at this point as well. He's immune to shock, he's immune to armor break and armor shatter. He has easy knockdowns as he can turn his stun into a passive heavy, or he can turn his shock into a passive stun when you're doing combos. He has very easy to play staggers, which is great for buff control. He has the power steal on his special 1, and he very much has the Doom cycle, which is like special 3 into a special 2, or special 3 into special 3 into special 3. He has great power control though, and you can definitely just indefinitely special 3 spam someone to death. And then he has good damage over time on his special 2 as well. The incinerates really tick pretty hard. I would love to see a 7-star Doom. He's also a good defender, but I think even on a 7-star on attack would be really nice to have. So hopefully we do see one in the future. So that does cover our tier 3. Moving to our honorable mentions, we have a bunch actually, so I'm going to go through them really quickly. First, we have Man-Thing. He is bleed immune, and then he also has armor breaks. He has armor shatter, or not armor breaks. He can apply pretty easily. He also can apply a bunch of poisons to the defender. He's just a little slow. He's not the best champ out there, but he's cool, and he could be used in a very weird, unique situation possibly. But yeah, that's Man-Thing. We have Sigil Witch. She has the unique thing of nullify on her parry. She has some really strong damage as well. But she's just not the strongest champ. The nullify on parry is a bit weird. I don't really like having a champ who's reliant on parrying to have some of her abilities. But yeah, she's cool. I think she's a fun champ to play, but she's just not the most used champ, and I haven't seen her assigned in War in a very long time. Next, we have Sasquatch. Again, more of a defender, obviously. He has stagger on the heavy attack, I think, and he's resistant to Cold Snap, and then he's immune to Frostbite and Armor Up. His rupture damage is pretty strong, somewhat, once he gets going. But again, he's mainly just outclassed by other attackers, so you don't really see him. I've seen people use him. He's more of a BG's champ, especially for defense, but people use him on attack there. But you really don't see anyone assign him in War. Next, another BG's champ is going to be Juggernaut. Oops, not the Relic. Juggernaut has massive damage, especially on that special 2. He has easy intercept with the Unstoppable. And then he has stagger on his heavy attack too. Yeah, his heavy attack also applies a stagger. But yeah, again, there's a lot of things that can screw him up. Any debuffs applied to Juggernaut really, they take away the gem thing he has. and when that's down, he doesn't do much damage. He kind of becomes useless. So he's not really practical for war. Um, but yeah, he'll continue to be a big BG's champ, obviously. Next, I think this champ could be ranked if they had a 7-star, and that's Black Widow Clairvoyant. A lot of people don't like her either, but she has her unique way of dealing with debuffs where she applies a buff immunity debuff on her special 2, and it makes her very unique in that way in how she controls buffs. And it's very potent. She also has good damage on her specials. When she builds up her charges, she can become bleed immune, poison immune, or incinerate immune, so she has a good amount of immunities. So she's a very unique champ. People don't like her because they think she hits pretty weak, which, I don't know. I don't think she hits that weak. And she has heal on the special too, and the special if she's in her bleed phase. So she has a bunch of different ways she can do damage, and I'd love to see her as a 7-star. And then the next champ is another 6-star. It is going to be Spider Supreme. He is getting a 7-star soon. He has a unique way of dealing with power gain where he kind of just steals it for himself, which is very nice. But yeah, besides that, he's really low on health, so he's really flimsy. I really don't like that in a war setting because you eat a combo and you basically die with him. So I can't imagine seeing him in war, but he's fun to play. His animations are super cool. But yeah, there's just safer options 90% of the time. More than 90%, almost every single time. And then the final champ is going to be Deathless Gilly, as honorable mention. Her kit is very small and short. Yeah, I mean, there it is. It's very small. She has very sustainable with her power, her heal steal, or her stealing healing. And then she has the nice Spectre on her special 2, which reduces regeneration rate. And then she does degen damage, which most people aren't immune to. But besides that, there's not enough utility to make her really practical for war. So again, I don't see that changing anytime soon. So she'll be a nice honorable mention. Now that does cover all the Mystic classes, so I will jump over to the Excel spreadsheet now. All right, and here is the final list. As you can see, we have all the classes now in their tiers. The Mystic class is very light on tier 2, especially compared to the rest of them, besides skill. So actually, it's kind of similar to skill build out. But again, a lot of the Mystics are defensive champions, so that's kind of, I think, why it ended up that way. But yeah, so this does finish our list in this series. I am planning to try and update this maybe every couple months once new champions come out, especially if we start to see different things. Champions being assigned and things like that from the new map. I'll obviously try and update it with that. But yeah, so if you enjoyed the series, definitely give it a like and subscribe. Again, I'm going to try and do more war content as much as possible going forward. So yeah, and we're going to have the new season starting soon, so I'll obviously be recording and sharing my fights as I always do. But that's going to do it for this series. Thank you everyone for watching.